Welcome, ladies. Today I would like to take you through what I call a Mobius Square. It's a great use for a straight line tool. It's a great way to get comfortable with your machine and templates. It teaches you how to use the template to create the pathway you're going to follow, and it's also great for learning that your machine can go any direction you want. So what is a Mobius Square? Well, this is what I call a Mobius Square. It is a great design, it's easy to do, and it's also lovely for a lot of different things. Because when we get done with the square, I'm going to take you through the concept of what happens if you do this with that. Today I'm going to use my straight line tool. This is what we call the mini straight line tool, and it is of course available in the different thicknesses, 1/8 inch, 3/16, and 1/4 inch. I'm on a Bernina machine, so I use the 1/4 inch acrylic. They are available in 1/4 inch in longer sizes. This is a medium, and we have one more size larger. Okay, ladies, I've already started with a square already stitched out. And what you need to remember is you're going to be using your template to stitch to the inside of the square. And I'm going to go in a clockwise fashion, and you're always going to line up your template against your foot and on the next corner. Now, this template has got dashed lines and it's got solid lines, and of course it has its edge. If I line up on the edge, my lines will be 1/4 inch apart. That's the width of the foot to the needle. If I line up on the first dashed line inside, which is 1/4 inch from the edge, that will be 1/2 inch wide. So I'm going to use the dashed line, and I'm going to line up on the next corner. Now, before you do any stitching, you need to look. Is your pathway going inside the box or outside the box? And as you can see here, I am going outside the box, so my template is on the wrong side of the foot. So I'm going to move my template to the other side, line up the first dashed line on that corner, and begin stitching. And I'm going to stitch to the first stitched line I come to. Let's bring our template around the foot and line up the same line, the first dash line, on that corner. This is where consistency is important. So we are going to stitch we've made sure my pathway is to the inside of the box, and we're going to continue to stitch. Stopping on the first stitched line. Move your template around, line up the same line on the next corner. These are key. Lining up on the next corner using the same line. Alright, first stitched line. That's important. I'm going to swing around. I'm going to line up my template on the next corner. Now, I am stopping on the first stitched line. Again, now that means I'm stitching on the first line that I stitched. You do not ever want to cross a stitch line. We now have one square tilted inside of the first square. Your next corner is along the first stitch line. So you are no longer going to be working out here on this edge. You're going to now be working on the corners of the squares that you just created. You never cross a stitch line, and your next corner is always on the line that you stopped on. So swing around, line up on the same line, and stitch. Next corner is down here, not the outer one, but the one on the inside. This is how your pathway always moves to the inside. And there's box 3 on the inside. Each time they tilt a little bit more. So let's continue on. You might have noticed as we're doing this, not only are you twisting those squares inside of them, but they're getting smaller each time too. Eventually, as we go along, you aren't going to make it to the next square. So let's see how that works out. And this one, I am not going to be able to get to this corner. The next corner is underneath the foot. So I'm going to go ahead and go to this corner and call it quits. That's how I like to do it. Now, you could have stopped right there as well, but it all comes down to what you want to do. After all, it's your quilt. All right, so here's what we've got. A Mobius square. Now, some people know them as parabolic squares. When you start putting them together, you can create parabolic images, and somebody else teaches that, so I'm going to let them teach that. What I want to teach you is what happens if you do this with that. So we've done that on a square. What happens when we put it in a hexagon or an octagon or a diamond or different triangles? Well, let's find out. So I started out by taking my nested hexagons and lining up a size that I wanted. The same for the octagons. I found a size that I wanted. I've got them all stitched out for you. I did the same with the diamonds and of course the triangles. Well, I just used my triangles rulers and made the rulers. I took my nested hexagons and drew out the size hexagon I wanted. And then I stitched it out. Having got it all stitched out already, we're going to start in a corner, just like we did with the square. And just as the last time, we're going to go to each corner in turn. I'm going to use the same spacing I did for the square. So I'm lining up the first dashed line on the corner. And I'm going to stitch to the first stitched line. Each time I come to a stop on a stitched line, I move my template to the next corner, line up on the same line, make sure I'm moving to the inside of my design, and stitch. Alright, one hexagon tilted inside of the first one. Continue on. and a third hexagon. We're just going to keep doing this. Take a nap for a minute and we'll be back. I've worked my way into the center here. Just like with the square, at some point you will start to lose your corners. So I'm getting really close right here, and what's happened is in turning on this one, my next corner is right here, but you can see it's going to take me and it's going to just basically wipe out a corner on me, which is fine. You can work with that. Just know that just like here, as we came down with the square down to a triangle, so we start to lose sides of the hexagon. So now we'll have a bit of a pentagon in here. Actually, I think it goes straight to a square. Okay, so there. So now I just go to my next corner. You just keep going around. Because I won't be able to pick up that corner either. So we're just going to go to the next corner, which is this one. That is where I'm going to stop. One hexagon filled. Shall we try an octagon next? I took one of my nested octagons, the size that I wanted, drew it on here, and then I stitched it out. So, no different than the hexagon, no different than the square. You're going to the inside. I'm going to stick with the same line that I've been working with. One octagon inside of another. Now, if you've noticed, these are shorter sides. And I actually, as things turn more, I will lose my corners faster. Because as you get closer to each corner and you keep each one progressively smaller, that's how this works out. Alright, so I've turned a corner and sure enough, I'm going to wipe out another corner. Okay, just keep going. And there's another corner that's going to be wiped out. And voila. And we now have a hexagon in here. Now, if you were to put the lines closer together, that maybe would either take longer or not happen quite as quickly. But, you know, I'm just looking to fill spaces and to create designs that look good in blank spaces. Okay, so here we have squares, hexagons, octagons, diamonds, an equilateral triangle, and a right triangle. Now, this one looks a little different than the others because this one was done using 1/4 inch apart. So I used the edge of the template as opposed to the first line inside the template. You can see the different looks. You can see how you can create a wide variety of designs. Over here, this was a long line. So I did have to move up to a larger template to be able to do the design. This is welcome to my world of what happens if you do this with that. I love the Mobius Square, so I wanted to try it in other designs. As a preview, which will come later down the road, I even took it a step further and said, what happens if you do curved lines inside of a circle? Watch for that to come. I hope you enjoyed this, ladies. I hope you see the value of a straight line tool. It will do lots of designs for you. Happy quilting!